Welcome back. I'm Jon Najarian, CJ Reichel, Matt Montemayor, also known as Monty. We welcome you to the Daily Crypto Byte. Guys, it's been a wild week as predicted, some of it because of the Ethereum expiry tomorrow, some of it because of FUD, some of it because of China and all of the can you imagine all the private jets being chartered out of China for some of these rigs? And can you imagine all the folks that are basically just going to give up? A, because they can't get out of China, or B, because they've got old equipment. They've got to upgrade all that old equipment, even though it was good enough where it was, probably because they were working on almost free energy. A lot of those miners, I got to think, there has to be some percentage, who knows, maybe it's 20%, that a combination of lack of funds, lack of ability to leave China, and old equipment, maybe they just throw in the towel. What do you guys think?
It might be interesting. You know, I'd be interested to see more statistics on what it costs or how viable or feasible it is for certain of these companies to migrate. Because if you take a massive farm like Bitmain, I mean, they have thousands and thousands of ant miners that they're going to have to ship overseas. And so for them, being a massive company, one of the most dominant, it's obviously probably worth it. But I do agree with you, John. I think some of those smaller independent or just less dominant miners in China might have some trouble about this. Some interesting things have been happening in China as of late. I mean, did you guys see Huobi's Twitter account yesterday was completely blank? That was unusual considering they're China's largest exchange, them and OKX. So overall, it is a mass migration, what we're seeing with these miners.
Yeah. Well, and maybe either one of you, if you wanted to opine on what does the loss of 50% of hash power mean in the short term? Obviously, a little more FUD, but what else does it mean?
Yeah, historically, when we've seen, drops in the hash rate to this extent, we also see that in tandem with a drop in price. Obviously, we've seen the same thing this week, but it's hard to say whether or not that was a result in the decrease of the hash power or just as a result of the FUD surrounding this event. So, we're kind of getting attacked by all fronts here because the network, the hash rate did fall by up to 50%, which is pretty significant. It doesn't really affect the health of the network. The Bitcoin network it utilizes miners, but it doesn't rely on them. So even if the hash rate fell to 1% of what it was today, the Bitcoin network would survive. Transaction fees would skyrocket and it'd be very hard to do anything on the network, but Bitcoin would survive. We saw, transaction fees go up as a result of this 50% decline in hash power. But other than that and the, sell off in price, it doesn't have too much of a profound effect. And I think we'll see that number, the hash power, increase very quickly as a lot of those miners migrate elsewhere across the world.
I'd also say, guys, I was on with Steve Ehrlich, as you know, the chairman of Voyager Digital last night, and they sponsor this program. Remember, type in Rebel25 to the promo code, and you'll get $25 in Bitcoin for signing up. We were on with the University of Texas MBA Graduate School of Business, Macomb School of Business, a bunch of the alumni last night, hundreds and hundreds of them. So if any of you are tuned in, thank you. And so many things to be optimistic about. We could all talk for probably another hour about things to be pessimistic about, but we could also talk for multiple hours about things to be optimistic about. And one of those things is that Andreessen Horowitz, one of the early adopters in crypto, because they funded a lot of early miners and things like that, a lot of projects and so forth. I think my friend Peter Brigger over at Fortress, when he moved out to California, that made a big difference as well. Silicon Valley really started to embrace crypto. And now I see that Mark Andreessen over at Andreessen Horowitz is launching a $2 billion crypto fund. Venture capital firm just announced 2.2 billion cryptocurrency focused fund. Quote, "We believe the next wave of computing innovation will be driven by crypto." And endorsements like that, beyond Michael Saylor, beyond Tesla purchasing Bitcoin and so forth from their treasury, are reasons for optimism, I think, on the currency, especially as this occurs after the FUD in China, which has been there for years, by the way, guys. China has said forever that they did not support their banks moving money back and forth to let people basically fund crypto accounts. And as most of you guys watching and listening know, if you're in one of these offshore exchanges, they can't take cash. For the most part, they have no ability to do that. You have to transfer ETH or transfer Bitcoin or something to fund your account. I don't know of any of those. I'm sure there are some, but I don't know of any where you could actually just with your bank move money to, nor would anybody want to really, quite frankly. But I don't know of any of those places where you can just connect it to your bank account.
Yeah, that's why stable coins are so prominent, really. I mean, multitude of reasons, but that's one of the primary ones still, especially for international jurisdictions. But to your point, John, about the hash power, I mean, yeah, we've seen this before. We've seen a knockout of 50% of the Bitcoin hash power in a weekend due to a flood in 4 minor provinces in China. Price fell, 10, 15%, but overall the long-term justifiability and health of the network still remains, like the point Monty was making earlier. So I do think there's a lot to be optimistic about still, but it'll be interesting how this price action shakes out the next few days, because we're actually getting some bullish moves the past couple of days.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And surprisingly, some of those altcoins were really what led. A number of them, including Binance, were really putting up big numbers. Yeah, Bitcoin bounced it, let's call it 29,000, just under there, pretty quickly, and overtook 34,000 and then traded back down just under 34,000. I mean, it was 32 something briefly last night I saw, guys. It's back up right up against 34,000 now, 33,903, down about 0.6%. And Bitcoin's holding it, dominance of 46.6%. ETH fell below 17% on that dominance scale to 16.7 right now.
Yeah, on the Bitcoin daily chart, we've been seeing some bullish price action, like you guys just mentioned. I'm going to throw that up right now. CJ, I'm curious to hear what you think. Do you think that this bounce that we've seen off these critical levels, do you think the trend is sort of exhausted and we're heading back down? I know you were talking about the 1 hour chart, which I will throw up right now, and the fact that we're hitting a sell 9 here. So what are you seeing in terms of technicals? Do you think we're maybe headed back down to test some downside critical levels, or do you think we could still keep chugging along to the upside?
I'm very bullish in the sense that I really like the daily chart. I think we are going to rally eventually up to prior resistance levels of like 36K, possibly even 38K by the end of the weekend on the daily chart. However, like you mentioned with the 1 hour chart, reaching that TD sell 9, and I could see, the trend is kind of having some stale green lights with all of these candles. And I think that we will correct to the moving average, the 20 smooth on the 1 hour, which is roughly where you've got that first red trend line drawn at about 32K. So I wouldn't surprised if we regressed to that level in the short term, but I expect it to hold. And I think once this sell pressure is relieved tomorrow at the end of, once we get these options expiration, I think that's just going to release a lot of pent-up demand. And it's going to be like a whistle for a bunch of these people sitting on the sidelines to get back in and get after it. So
yeah, I hope you're right, CJ, because it does feel like there's a bit of reluctancy amongst traders right now to enter the market. We've seen volume decline pretty significantly as we've kind of progressed back into that 36 or into that 34K level. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I agree that after tomorrow's Ethereum options expiration, there's going to be so much pressure relief from this market. So I want to pull up the Ethereum chart as well, because this one is looking pretty interesting. We got a nice bounce off that 200 period moving average, but now we're just struggling to find, a continuation of that momentum. We're kind of sitting at, about 1890 right now. I want to talk about this critical level that I am looking for a break above to feel more confidence entering a long trade. Like CJ just mentioned, this weekend with the options expiration tomorrow, there's the possibility for some serious volatility and, some serious positive price action because of the fact that, not only in the past after these options expirations have we seen Ethereum rally like we did in April, but it just feels like there's so much sell pressure that's currently just sort of suppressing price at right around 2K. And the level I'm watching is this level I have marked here at 2145. Now, this was a very critical level on the way up back in April. As you can see, we hit resistance here for about a week, and it took a really solid uptick in volume to break above this line of 2145. And one thing that I think is interesting as well is that once we got above it, all the way back here in April, we went back down and retested as support. So this level is a level that, both the bulls have been content to buy historically, but also, the bears have been content to sell into this level. So now that we're below it between the 200 period moving average and, looking to potentially go up against it again, I'm watching for a break above this level. And if we do get a break above this level following tomorrow's options expiration, I think entering into a long trade with the goal of perhaps taking profit around this 50 period moving average of about 2,700 is very possible and could be, a nice, quick, profitable trade. So I'll be watching Ethereum this weekend. And, I hate to be kind of boring, but it actually is my sort of doge of the day today because I think a lot of the alts and a lot of their price action is contingent on what we see in Ethereum's price action over the next 24 hours. So I just wanted to give some technical levels here. And yeah, this is my doge of the day today.
Speaking of short-term, potentially profitable trades, shall we move into the doge of the day?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep, I was just looking at the open interests, guys, of the Ethereum and Bitcoin options that we're seeing right now, because as we've said for a week or 10 days, we were pretty focused on this area and tomorrow's date, the 25th. So Ethereum has still about $1.5 billion in options that will expire tomorrow. Bitcoin has a bunch as well. Those that trade on the Merc, of course, the nature of DeFi is that Deribit and all of the other exchanges that dwarf the volume that goes up on the Merc. Those exchanges don't have any, they set their own rules for expirations as well as trading. But I would point out that 31,000 ish, 31.5 is a pretty critical level. And if Bitcoin remains above that, then an awful lot of those people skated that were short those puts and or people that were betting to the downside are going to see those vaporize. There's a lot of upside calls that are just going to vanish because people that were long those calls were wrong because big open interest over 40,000. And a lot of people still do use leverage both ways, good and bad. I'll call it good when you're buying an option because nobody can basically force you out when you've paid for the option. But if you've sold that option and it's going against you, there's a lot of bad things that can happen. It appears that a lot of the upside speculation was that Bitcoin would retake 40,000, which it did a week ago, but then crashed back down. And a lot of those broken dreams are that open interest from 40,000 on up over at the CME. So I would think that, quite frankly, right around these levels, guys, if 34,000 is too dear to you, I would think that options, at the 38,000 level would be a pretty decent purchase with a 3-month out view that Bitcoin goes higher from here. So that'd be it's not a Doge, but that'd be my trade of the day.
That's great, John. I'm glad you mentioned that because I agree. I was thinking about this yesterday. I think we're entering into a time period in the market cycle. We're buying Bitcoin options, with that sort of time frame, 3 months out, could be incredibly profitable. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and that's something that maybe we could explore more over the next couple of weeks with our audience. But
Sure,
CJ,
and we could actually track it too, Monty. We could track it, and people then would get more comfortable with, well, what happens if you buy that 38 call? And good and bad. What happens when Bitcoin, if it tests 30 again, what happens to that call option? If we trade back to 40, what happens to that call option? And if we go higher, I know Plan B is still saying, guys, that their conviction is for their stock to flow model, is it? That they still believe 100,000 by year end. And if it's not, then they're saying their model is broken. We're coming up on the halfway point of the year, and we got all the way to 64,000 a month ago. Could we make another attempt? Sure, if all this FUD and the rest of the China problem dies down. China's going to be an afterthought, I say. That's one of my predictions, by the way. China will be an afterthought when they get these miners out of there. China, if they know what they're doing, they're giving up an awful lot of upside of crypto for their economy. And they're probably doing it because, it's a totalitarian state and they want to control things. But I think they will regret that decision going forward.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally creating a mass exodus of innovation as we speak from their country. So it's just, I don't get it. There's something they know I don't. And so, obviously. But, yeah, I have a lot of Doges I'd like to talk about.
Let's get to it, CJ.
Because I am inclined to think in the market, like, a lot of people have, COVID has been lifted. Obviously, a lot more people are out doing things. They're not forced to be looking at their phones or Robinhood as much as they were, say, in the winter or earlier in the spring when we really saw the manic rally. I think it may take until next fall or, when the kids go back to school, those types of things, before we see people back on their screens in that level of volume. So it'll be interesting to see, but if we get a type of manic time like that, similar to what we experienced earlier in the year, I think things like Doge and BitTorrent and Sheeb, things that we don't typically talk about having any fundamental value, will do very well just on speculation alone. I thought the fact that Doge actually was up 40% the other day off of just a minor increase in price really speaks volumes to when, if an asset like that is increasing despite the overall market downturn, it may lead to greater strength. And Doge has just kind of been a bastion of new retail capital coming into the space. But I've rambled on about Doge long enough. Let's get to the actual assets. So the ones I want to pick for today are two assets that I think are very oversold, but are having some nice bottoming patterns and some nice volume as Bitcoin kind of turns around and makes its ascent towards 35K. And the first one on the left side here is going to be OXT, that's Orchid. And, our first resistance level really comes in at 29 cents. And then ultimately I see a target of 36 cents, which would essentially, what's up?
No, I said cool. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, no worries. So target price up to roughly 36 cents. Then the next one on the right side is CeeLo. This one has a lot of volume and has actually been really increasing with the slight market increase. So something that I always like to watch for is when you have an asset that remains resilient amongst a downturn and then has the momentum to rally back on the reverse side when we're going up. That's often something I really like to look for when choosing kind of Doges of the day.
Cool.
Very nice.
Well, and keep in mind, folks, that there's a Daily Crypto Byte every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You can also go over to YouTube. And if you've missed Daily Crypto Byte, and for whatever reason you don't already follow us on Twitter, where it gets posted up, a link to it, you can go over to YouTube. And if you subscribe to Market Rebellion for free, you get all these videos. These videos for the Daily Crypto Byte, Pete's The Take, which happens in about 8 minutes at 10:30 Eastern Time, my 3 at 3, a lot of our roundtables with luminaries like Kevin O'Leary, like Tom Lee at Fundstrat, like Tony Dwyer. A lot of those interviews and so forth are posted up there, and it's all free. But if you'd like to join the crypto guys in that chat room 24/7, just go to marketrebellion.com/try crypto, and you can join for $1 for your first month. So check it out.
And as always, thank you to Voyager for sponsoring this show. I'm pretty sure Steve Ehrlich's going to be on Trade the Chain tomorrow or today with Alex Massioli, so look out for that. But yeah, check them out if you want to earn up to 9% interest on your held assets. Voyager's the place to be. So thanks again to them for sponsoring the show, and thank you guys all so much for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time with another Daily Crypto Byte. Have a good day.
Thank you.